I always believed that love was a silent promise, a shelter you build with someone to keep the harsh world away. My name is Aska, and for 5 years, my world was a beautiful, serene picture painted with the colors of trust and devotion. I met Zayed when the autumn leaves were falling, and his warmth felt like the first ray of sun after a long, freezing winter. We married soon after, creating a life that felt almost too perfect to be real. Our home was filled with laughter, the sweet scent of jasmine from the garden, and a quiet understanding that we would always be each other's safe haven. Zaid was a man of gentle words and soft smiles. Every morning, he would kiss my forehead and tell me that my happiness was his only purpose in life. I poured my entire soul into our marriage, losing a bit of myself just to make sure he was always whole. But looking back, I realized that the most beautiful flowers often grow over the deepest graves. The first fracture in my perfect world didn't come with a loud crash. It came with a whisper, a sudden coldness that crept into our warm home. It started with small things. Zayed began keeping his phone face down on the table, a tiny gesture that felt like a heavy wall rising between us. His eyes, which used to search for mine the moment he walked through the door, now looked everywhere except at me. When I asked him if something was wrong, he would simply smile, a forced, empty smile, and tell me I was imagining things because I loved him too much. But a woman's heart has its own eyes. I could feel a strange, haunting presence in the spaces between his words. Until everything changed on the night of our 5th anniversary. I had cooked his favorite meal, dressed in the same silk gown he loved, and waited. The candles burned down to pools of wax, and the clock ticked away the hours like a slow heartbeat. When he finally walked in at midnight, there was no apology in his eyes, only a distant, lingering guilt. As he fell asleep, exhausted from a business meeting, his phone lit up on the nightstand. A single message flashed across the screen from an unknown number. "Did you tell her about us yet?" In that exact moment, the ground beneath my feet dissolved. My breath caught in my throat, and a cold shiver ran through my veins. The man sleeping peacefully beside me was no longer my husband. He was a stranger holding the weapon that had just shattered my entire existence. The days that followed were a living nightmare, a slow drowning in an ocean of unspoken grief. I didn't confront him immediately. Instead, I watched, my heart breaking into 1,000 sharp pieces with every passing second. I discovered that the woman was Maya, someone he worked with, someone he had been bringing into our world while I was busy building our future. Every sweet text he sent her was a dagger in my back. Every secret laugh they shared was a fire that consumed my memories of us. My soul felt completely exposed, stripped of the dignity I had carried all my life. I would sit in the dark living room while he slept, crying silently so the walls wouldn't hear my shame. I felt completely destroyed, trapped in a house that had transformed from a sanctuary into a prison of lies. But what I didn't know that day was how much pain a human heart can endure before it turns into stone. One afternoon, while Zayed was away, I found a diary hidden in his drawer. As I opened it, my hands trembled. It wasn't just a casual affair. He had written about how he planned to slowly distance himself from me, how he wanted to take our shared savings to start a new life with Maya, leaving me with nothing but an empty house and a broken name. Reading those cold, calculated words did something to me. The tears that had been flowing for weeks suddenly dried up. The overwhelming pain morphed into a quiet, chilling clarity. I realized that crying over a thief wouldn't bring back what was stolen. I looked at my reflection in the mirror. My eyes were swollen, my skin pale. But beneath the exhaustion, I saw a flicker of something new, strength. I had spent years being the gentle water that adapted to his shape, but now it was time to become the storm. I began to collect the evidence quietly. Every bank statement showing he was draining our funds for her. Every message, every location tag. I didn't scream, I didn't rage. When he came home and kissed my cheek with those lips that had lied to me 1,000 times, I smiled back. It was a different kind of smile now, the smile of a woman who knew the game was already over, and the pieces were about to fall exactly where they belonged. I was no longer the victim of this story. I was becoming the author of its ending. Justice does not always come with thunder. Sometimes it arrives with the quiet turn of a key. The climax unfolded on the day of Zayed's grand promotion party at his firm, celebration he had invited all our family, friends and colleagues to attend. Maya was there too, standing close to him, wearing a triumphant smile. Zayed stood on the stage, basking in the applause, thanking everyone for his success. That was when I walked up to the projector operator with a flash drive in my hand, smiling gently. As Zayed began his speech, thanking his supportive family, the screen behind him suddenly changed. It wasn't the corporate presentation everyone expected. Instead, the screen displayed his text messages with Maya, the bank transfers of our joint savings to her account, and the pages of his diary detailing his plan to abandon his wife. The room fell into a deathly, suffocating silence. Zayed froze, his face turning a ghostly pale as he stared at the screen, his world collapsing around him in public view. Maya tried to hide her face as whispers broke out like wildfire. Zayed looked at me, his eyes begging, pleading for a mercy he had never shown me. But my heart felt no pity. His career, his reputation, and his precious illusions were completely ruined in a single evening. The firm terminated his contract the very next morning for unethical behavior, and the family he had embarrassed turned their backs on him. He lost the money, the status, and eventually, even Maya left him when the luxury vanished. When he came to our empty house to sign the divorce papers, he looked broken, a shell of the man he used to be. He asked me through tears, "How could you do this to me, Aska?" I looked at him calmly and replied, "I didn't destroy you. Zayed, I only allowed your truth to be seen." As I walked out of that house for the last time, a deep sense of peace washed over me. I learned that revenge isn't about hatred. It is about restoring balance. Betrayal may shatter your world, but it also clears away the illusions that keep you blind. I walked away into the bright morning sun, finally free, knowing that a broken heart can heal. But a life built on a foundation of lies will always crumble under its own weight.